The spoiled millionaire David was known for always getting everything he wanted, including women. When his friends challenged him to date Camille, a reclusive and enigmatic girl, he didn't think twice before accepting. However, what David didn't know was that he was about to uncover the deep and surprising secrets hidden behind the mysterious young woman. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. David was the typical playboy at the university. Tall, handsome, and charismatic, he attracted attention wherever he went with his confident smile and designer clothes. As the only child of millionaire parents, he was used to getting everything he wanted. His grades weren't the best, but he compensated with his charm and popularity. Always surrounded by a group of equally rich and carefree friends, David viewed college more as a social obligation than an academic endeavour. Camille, on the other hand, was practically invisible. She frequently missed classes or left early. Quiet and reserved, she usually sat at the back of the room, almost always alone. Her brown hair was always tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore discreet clothing, usually a loose sweatshirt. She rarely spoke to her classmates and often arrived late or left early. This fueled rumours and jokes about her being strange or part of some sort of cult. An episode that cemented Camille's reputation was when she finally accepted an invitation to go to a bar with her classmates after class. For the first time, she appeared to be a normal girl until her father showed up, whispered something in her ear, and took her away. Everyone was left puzzled by what had happened, and it only added to Camille's fame as someone odd. The classroom was bustling that Monday morning. The teacher had announced that he would draw pairs for the important semester project. David was leaning back in his chair, chatting animatedly with his friends. "Man, I hope I don't get paired with the weirdo," one of them said, glancing at Camille, who was sitting alone in the corner of the room. "Don't even mention it," David replied, laughing. "Can you imagine having to work with someone who barely talks and disappears all the time? I'd rather pair up with the annoying nerd." The friends laughed in agreement. The teacher began calling out names, forming the pairs. With each name announced, David and his group hoped they wouldn't hear their names alongside Camille's. "David and Camille," announced the teacher. The smile vanished from David's face. His friends burst into laughter. "You're screwed, man," exclaimed one of them, patting David on the back. "Good luck working with the ghost girl," mocked another. David looked at Camille from across the room. She kept a neutral expression, as if she hadn't heard anything. He sighed, resigned. It would be a long semester. In the days that followed, David tried to postpone the start of the project with Camille as much as possible. But with the deadline approaching, he had no choice but to schedule a meeting at the university library. The library was an imposing building, with tall, dark wooden shelves filled with books. The aroma of old paper and coffee mingled in the air. David arrived late on purpose, hoping that Camille would give up and leave. To his surprise, she was there, sitting at a table in the corner surrounded by books and notes. "Hi," he said dryly, throwing his backpack onto the table. Camille lifted her eyes from her notebook. "Hello, David. I'm glad you came. I've already started the research on the topic." Her voice was soft and melodious, catching David by surprise. He didn't remember hearing her speak before. "Whatever," he replied, pulling up a chair and sitting down. "Let's just get this over with." The hours dragged on. David kept checking his phone every 5 minutes, responding to messages from his friends and complaining the whole time. Camille, on the other hand, remained focused and patient, explaining each point of the research clearly. As the days passed and the meetings at the library became more frequent, David started to notice subtle changes. Camille was not as strange as everyone thought. In fact, she was intelligent and had a subtle sense of humour that sometimes caught him by surprise. Her explanations made the work much easier to understand. One day, while they were studying, David caught her smiling at something he had said. It was as if a curtain had been drawn back, revealing a completely different person behind the quiet facade. The following week, during lunch with his friends in the noisy university cafeteria, the topic inevitably fell on Camille. "So, man, how is it working with the weirdo?" one of the guys asked, laughing. David hesitated for a moment. "Actually, she's not that bad. She's quite smart." The friends looked at each other, surprised. "Don't tell me you're starting to like her," another one teased. "Of course not," David replied quickly, feeling his cheeks warm up. "I'm just saying she's not as weird as we thought." "Is that so?" taunted a third friend. "Then prove it. I bet you can't get a date with her." The others agreed, laughing and making more jokes. David felt his pride hurt. He was known as the ladies' man on campus, after all. "All right," he said, forcing a confident smile. "You'll see. By the end of the week, I'll go out with Camille." The next day in the library, David was nervous. He had never felt this way about asking a girl out before. Camille was focused, taking notes in her notebook. "Hey, Camille," he began, trying to sound casual. "What do you think about going out after this? There's a nice diner near the campus." Camille looked up, surprised. "Sorry, David, but I think it's better we focus on the work we have to do." The rejection caught him by surprise. No girl had ever said no to him before. But strangely, instead of getting irritated, he felt intrigued. At the next meeting, David tried again. "How about we grab a coffee after studying today?" Camille smiled gently. "Thank you for the invitation, David, but I can't. I have to go home to have dinner with my family." "Family dinner?" David laughed without humour. "I don't even remember the last time I had a meal with my parents. They are always too busy." For a moment, he saw a flicker of compassion in Camille's eyes. The deadline for the challenge was approaching, and David was becoming desperate. It was no longer about the bet, he realised. He really wanted to spend time with Camille outside the library. "Finally, we finished the work," he said on the last day. "You no longer have an excuse to refuse my invitation." Camille looked at him for a long moment, as if assessing him. Then, to David's surprise, she smiled. "All right," she said, "but on one condition. You have dinner with my family first. After that, we can go out. What do you think?" David was a bit confused. He barely knew Camille and would already be having dinner with her family. But he eventually agreed. That night, as he got ready to go to Camille's house, David noticed that he was genuinely anxious. Not because of the silly bet with his friends, but because he really wanted to get to know that girl who intrigued him more and more. Camille's house was a modest building in the suburbs of the city. David rang the doorbell, feeling his heart race. The door opened, revealing a middle-aged man with a warm smile. "You must be David," exclaimed Camille's father, extending his hand. Come in, come in. Camille is finishing getting ready. Come, let's watch the game while we wait." Before David could process what was happening, he found himself sitting in the living room, cheering for the local team alongside Camille's father and brother. The atmosphere was relaxed and welcoming, something he hadn't experienced in a long time in his own home. "David?" He turned around and his jaw almost dropped. Camille was standing at the entrance of the room, but she looked like a completely different person. Her hair, usually tied up, fell in gentle waves over her shoulders. The usual sweatshirt had been replaced by a simple floral dress that highlighted her natural beauty. "Shall we go to the dining room?" she invited with a shy smile. The dining room was cosy, dominated by a large wooden table. David watched, fascinated, as Camille, her sister, and her brother worked in harmony, setting the table with plates, cutlery, and glasses that looked like they were straight out of a decoration magazine. A moment later, Camille's father entered, pushing a wheelchair. In it sat a woman with a frail appearance, but with bright eyes and a warm smile. "You must be David," Camille's mother said in a weak but welcoming voice. "We are very happy to have you with us." David was speechless for a moment, touched by the scene in front of him. "What a beautiful table," he finally managed to say. "You didn't have to do all this for me." The family exchanged amused glances before the mother replied, "David, we are really happy with your presence, but the truth is that our dinners are like this every day. We make it a point to prepare our favourite dishes, use our best cutlery and china, and dress up. It's the moment for our family to create the best memories. As you can see, I'm not in my best shape." She laughed softly, eliciting smiles from the others. "I know my time is limited, so we decided to live each day as if it were the last, which is why we have dinner together every day." The dinner that followed was one of the most memorable experiences of David's life. The food was delicious, but what really impressed him was the family's dynamic. There was laughter, funny stories, lively debates. Everyone seemed genuinely interested in each other's opinions, including his. Camille, whom he had always seen as so reserved in college, was a different person at home. She laughed openly, told jokes, and actively participated in conversations. David found himself several times admiring the sparkle in her eyes, the way she tossed her hair back when she laughed. After dinner, as they were getting ready to leave, David couldn't stop thinking about the contrast between that meal and the rare times he had dinner with his own parents. They were usually formal events, full of etiquette and superficial conversations about business. On the way to the bar, Camille explained more about her family situation. Her mother's illness was the reason for her frequent absences and early departures from college. The family had an agreement to always be united during critical moments when they would have to say goodbye, which explained the bar episode when her father picked her up that had fueled so many rumours about her. That had been one of those moments. Sitting at a table in the bar, David was enchanted. The Camille he saw now was completely different from the shy girl at college. She was funny, intelligent, with strong opinions on various subjects. Then the guilt hit him like a punch in the stomach. The entire encounter had started because of a stupid bet. Camille deserved to know the truth. "Camille," he began, feeling his heart racing. "I need to tell you something." She looked at him curiously as he took a deep breath. "This date. At first, it was part of a stupid bet with my friends," he confessed, avoiding her gaze. "They dared me to go out with you, but I want you to know that it doesn't matter anymore. I think I'm really falling in love with you." The silence that followed was deafening. When David finally had the courage to look at Camille, he saw hurt and disappointment in her eyes. "How could you?" she whispered, standing up abruptly. "I thought you were different, David, but I see I was wrong." Before he could respond, she was already leaving the bar. David sat there, alone, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. In the weeks that followed, David tried to talk to Camille at college, but she avoided him. His friends mocked him for losing to the weird girl, but he didn't care about that anymore. All he wanted was a chance to explain himself, to show Camille that his feelings were genuine. On the day of the project presentation, David received a message from Camille saying she couldn't attend. Worried, he presented the project alone. After the class, the professor called him. "David, Camille informed me she wouldn't be coming. Her mother's health has worsened," explained the professor with an understanding look. Without thinking twice, David ran to Camille's house. When he arrived, he saw several cars parked in front. His heart sank as he realised what had happened. Camille was sitting on the steps of the porch, her eyes red from crying so much. When she saw David, she hesitated for a moment but did not send him away. "I'm so sorry," he said, sitting down beside her. "For everything." She nodded silently, tears streaming down her face. David, hesitant, put an arm around her shoulders. To his surprise, Camille leaned against him, accepting the comfort. They stayed like that for a long time in silence. Words were not necessary at that moment. David understood that this was just the beginning. There was much to be said, much to be forgiven. But there, in that instant, he knew he would do anything to deserve a second chance. In the months that followed, David became a constant presence in Camille's life and her family's. He learned the value of each shared moment, the importance of being present for those we love. Slowly, day by day, he proved to Camille that his feelings were true. And so what began as a foolish bet turned into a life lesson for David. Sometimes we reserve our best dishes, cutlery, glasses and clothes for special occasions, like formal dinners or visits from people we want to impress. However, many times we don't realise that the most special people are right beside us in everyday moments. Our family deserves our best, and every meal, every shared laugh deserves to be celebrated. So, enjoy each day with those you love while they are still present. Life is made up of small moments, and it is in these details that we find the greatest joys. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.